Just waiting on YouTube. Okay. So we're live on Facebook and YouTube. Welcome, everybody. How's it going, everybody? We got Franco in the house. It's always exciting to talk to Franco. Let me get him up here. Here we go. All right. What's happening?
There we go. Let me just make sure my mic's set correctly. Yes. So good. Can you hear me well?
Yeah, I can hear you real good.
All right. Excited to connect with you again.
Yes, you're just killing it. You and Kimberly are just killing it, man. I can't keep up. I'd been doing pretty good till about 10 days ago, or really right after the last time we talked. I mean, you're just tearing it up.
Well, it's high demands that we have to get this content out to help as many people as possible, or at least stimulate as many people as possible to participate through this powerful change that we're going through. So
yeah,
I get no rest. My higher self soul just keeps pushing and pushing.
Yeah, I think that's happening a lot to a lot of people. Morgan's happening to Morgan big time. So it's been a lot of work. God, I'm trying to get my thoughts together. I don't even know what today is. I had one show yesterday. I couldn't do it. And so that would be what, Monday. I did 3 shows, and Sunday I did 1 show, and I usually take Saturday and Sunday off. But I noticed toward the end of the week, last week, I started to go into this space, and because I've been through it, it was just, it's hard to explain. It wasn't emotional. Morgan asked me last night, well, are you emotional? I'm like, no, I really haven't gotten emotional. It's just physically, I could feel it in my body. I can feel at night in dream state, extremely busy. Seem like there's almost like a fight going on. And I really don't want to use that word, but a struggle or some resistance has been come across. But, every day gets better. But this last 3 or 4 days, there's been a lot of energy. There's just been a lot of physical assimilation in the body. I've noticed some comments when I put the post up today late. Somebody made a comment to that effect. They said, I'm excited to hear the show because I want to see what you guys have to talk about, because the last 3 or 4 days have just been kicking my butt, So having said all that, what the hell's been going on?
Well, I mean, it's well put in regards to getting our butt kicked in a way. It feels that way, but a lot of the conflicts that we may have, as we call it conflicts, but basically it's old memory of self that are stored in the body, stored in our the wiring and the operating system in ourselves are being really, really pushed. So we're getting a lot of not only powerful stimulations that are going on, but then it also drops us to the sense where you're kind of, you've been lifted and now all of a sudden dropped, and that gives you time to kind of catch your, and I'm not talking about catching your breath, catching your grip of that wave, and then you get another one. The stuff at night, of course, has been insane. I'm going through it myself in the sense where not only doesn't it make any sense, but it is so let's put it this way, it creates so many different layers and layers of polarities, and you got the collective and you have whatever you've experienced, but then you also have this new stuff coming in, and there's a real interesting dance. And I don't know how many people have been feeling totally exhausted to the point where your mind actually gets so foggy you don't even feel like you want to have another thought. And that's happening because of the heavy rewiring and stuff that's going on. When I say rewiring, I mean, that's not probably the right word for it. It's really some pretty powerful adjustments that are taking place.
Yeah.
And so it's feels like you're not a battle, but you're actually going through some really intensified work, and some people have related to it as being somewhat feeling like stress, but not in the same capacities. And that's just because of a lot of stuff that's been going on. And we've had some pretty intensities in the last, especially the last several days, but also pretty well the whole week. Has been on so many levels. And anybody that's actually have selected or have agreed from an internal point to carry a certain energy, it's allowed to go through us. And that can feel pretty powerful in one way, but quite intense. And if you've got any trapped memories of emotions or old patterns within yourself, you're going to feel that. You're going to feel, that stuff coming up through you. And it's just basically at that point, it's not with the purpose of clearing it out. It's just being noticed. And then it's doing its own process. It's not like you have to sit down and try to figure out how to clear it out. It's actually being cleared out, but by just having those experiences and so forth. We need to have the downtime or whatever you want to call it at time to time just to get it. And if you can connect with nature, spend a little bit of quality time outside, then you get a little bit more direct assistance from the energies of Gaia and so forth that will make it move a lot quicker and give you a certain level of grounding too at the same time.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I don't know. I can't think. My brain's foggy, like you said. But so there's the one thing. There's this push, and I've heard a lot of people talking about it. Morgan been talking about it for 2-3 weeks, and then we did a show, and then she got inundated with sessions, something she's never, really went out and actively tried to pursue, but it's turned into what I've seen in others, even people that I observe. It's like the years and years and years of work and preparation. It's here. And so for me, it's a little bit different because I started receiving Soulogy Network about 8 years ago. About this time of year in 2012, it first started coming. They'd say Soulogy, and I'd be okay, and they'd say it's going to be huge, it's going to be global, it's going to be bigger than Elvis, bigger than the Beatles, and I'm like, I didn't really get it, but over the last year or so, I've in increments, I've watched, I've been able to say, okay, I got this, and now while this is hitting, there's no part of my being that's doubting it. I just know it's going to happen. I have no linear time pressure. I can see how it's all aligning. So I see that happening with others. That's been my experience. But then the thing about nature and, I'm going to hit the road tomorrow. She's flying to Arkansas. I'm going to meet her there. But this started about 3-4 days ago. She started saying, "Are you avoiding me?" And I said, "No, I'm not avoiding you. I can't really explain what's happening. I just need to go sit out in the RV, listen to music, and like you said, it's not like stuff's being presented. It is being presented. Okay. It's definitely being presented. It's not like super stressful. It is noticeable, but I love what you said about, you don't really have to do anything. Now, I don't know how far that goes, but there is an element from what I'm experiencing. There's an element of it's working itself out. you're seeing
Right.
this stuff. And then I spent a couple of nights in the RV just because I needed to be alone, and there was no reason for it other than I'm just listening to my body, listening to the energy, the field of my energy. And final point, so on three consecutive nights, I walked to the beach and I stand at the beach, and I actually had some incredible downloads come in, and it was very cool. And the way, and you're right, it really grounded me. I went to the beach 2 nights ago. That was the big one. And I stood there with my feet in the sand right on the shore, and I just heard I heard, all you have to do is hold this frequency of oneness. This is all you that you're looking at, the mother, the father, the child, everything is you. And all you have to do is hold this frequency, and everything will adapt or reconfigure around you to match you. And this is happening at a cookie cutter level, obviously around the world, for those tuning in, and transforming their energy field, and thereby transforming the earth. So that's my take on it. Thank you for validating it.
Yeah, and the one thing I wanted to add to what you just said, which is, I think it's very important for people to really realize, there's going to be times that you need to be alone. And
Yeah.
that being alone is because you need to be in your own energy, because sometimes the energy of somebody else actually interferes in the
Yeah.
sense of you grounding with your own energies and whatever else is going on. I find it myself with Kimberly too. I mean, normally we sleep in separate rooms anyways, but there's been a few nights that, it's like, even if she wants to come and, cuddle, will be there for a little while, which is great. But then I have to go, okay, it's time to go our separate ways in a way, because then, you're going through certain energies that you have to hold your own. Basically, having another input really close by tends to kind of create unnecessary other energy. Not I'm saying that that's going to be permanent. That's just as certain things will go. And then the other thing also is, even having a discussion will be, there's nothing to discuss in a sense where, no, we don't want, like sometimes I know Kimberly has said, well, let's talk about what's going on, and I go, no, there's no talking right now.
Yes.
Just because.
Thank you.
Yes. And there's nothing wrong with whatever's going on with the relationship. It's just because you're going through this whole integration. Everything is adjusting within you, and trying to verbalize or put that into the equation, actually, it becomes an interference. So it's like, no, there's nothing personally. I love you and everything else, but there's no talk right now.
Well, sometimes we can exacerbate things. I think the difference here, and that's why I'm putting my hands up and thanking you, because that's how I felt. I felt like, okay, so if we do start talking about it, and this could be anybody, because I have had some other conversations with the people, there's nothing to talk about. There's just nothing to talk about. There's nothing personal. It's just the way it is. And the other thing I noticed about it too, I actually noticed it probably, end of last year. But what I was noticing was, and I think I mentioned this before, it seemed like there's a cycle to it. So there's this cycle. I noticed this pattern that, like, the first part of the month, somewhere around the 5th to the 10th, we had to be alone, and so the next month would come, I'm like, I'm going to be on the lookout for this. Right. And so it's getting a little easier to detect. Now, the thing that I noticed in February, we were traveling around, and then she went to Kansas City for 9 days, and it's the same type of energy. I can feel it. Like, we have to be apart. So I'm looking forward to driving, throughout the country for 4 or 5 days, and just being alone, and I'll go up to the Blue Ridge Mountains and do whatever. But it feels like the same type of energy. The last time this happened, when she came back after 9 days, not just for us, but I think collectively, there was a huge expansion. And that's kind of how I feel now. I feel like when this period's over, first, week or 10 days in June, there's going to be a huge expansion. And I know you've been talking about June since the end of last year, but so.
Yeah, no, perfect, perfect. And yes, normally, because you'll notice, especially in the beginning of the month, because that's when the new energies are coming in to kind of solidify the new themes and whatever else that's going on. And so that you need that window for yourself to really integrate with it. And then later on, you know, the coming together and the sharing and so forth of each other's experiences are, you know, you're more open to it and so forth. But those windows are necessary. And it depends, you know, I'm not saying everybody will experience the same, depending on, you know, where, at what level they've achieved within themselves and the progress. But everybody to some degree will feel it, but others, some people, or there's a percentage of people that will feel it much more intensely. Specifically, if you're committed to making some huge changes and moves within yourself, then that's going to, you really need that time for you to be with yourself. So like you're saying, driving out there, it's going to be great because you're going to have time on your own. You can stop and whatever, connect with the different energies that are in the different areas as you're going along. And you're really just with yourself and your creation around you at that point in time. So it's very instrumental. So it's perfect timing.
So this month was embracement, right? Embracement's what you called it.
Yep.
And that fits with what I've been observing and what I've been going through. Do you have any clue? Yeah. What's the theme for June? I can't imagine after embracement. I mean, to me, that's a very, and I've watched people do it. I've watched Morgan do it. I've watched people like coming into their power, you know, embracing themselves. Maybe we're seeing these things that are showing themselves that don't necessarily have to go be, you know, looked at. They're working themselves out, like you were talking about earlier. I don't know what could come after embracement other than maybe creativity, manifestation. You know, you can
Well,
share with us.
the theme for June is renewal.
A renewal, like resurrection, renewal. Yeah.
Renewal. And it's actually quite interesting because tomorrow, the 28th, is the start and the opening up of, we all have barriers in a sense, if you want to call it that. It actually starts later tonight into the morning. But anyways, we've created limited realities so that we actually only can see so much. And then, of course, all of us have been expanding to some degree to be able to see it. But what's happening, we're going to have a much more powerful glimpse of more of a vastness of sourceness or of all creation, just so that we get a view of it. And it actually creates stimulation of reminder that we are this existence, this whole existence beyond your physicality, beyond planet Earth and the galaxy and the universe and so forth. And there'll be a glimpse of that. Now, depending on the people, how open and how much they're not going to shield themselves from it, we'll get that. And the limits that we've, and this is going to be several days going into this. So it starts tomorrow. Well, yeah, depending on where you are in the world. But anyways, it starts later tonight into the morning, basically, and then goes on. But it actually removes some of the veils, and these veils would act as a reflection in a sense, where we would look out, but we can only see ourselves and our immediate reality. This will allow us to become more transparent, to be able to see further and see that there's more to this limited reality. So we get a glimpse of the vastness. And depending on how open you are to that, your potentiality, possibilities, and everything else expands to it. It will trigger that part of it at this point. So that's in preparation because as of June 3rd, the matrix, our organic matrix, is going through an upgrade. So it's getting a new update. So there's going to be some changes of that. So that will be reflected in our world, actually, because it didn't want to have too much at the same time before, but now this upgrade will allow us to have actually a little bit more access to that what we can call organic 3D and organic 5D state, but it's also allowing us to be ourselves more in the sense, even though we are heavily programmed through the ego and everything else to hold that inverted matrix within ourselves, we're actually, there's more of a bridging that occurs. The other part of it that comes in, Oh, right. And later on, so that's going to continue throughout the month, but it starts on the 3rd. So he gets the first upgrade and the segment upgrades. Between the 6th and the 9th, it could be, from the 6th to the 9th, I think it was closer to the 10th, but we will also have another opportunity to access more of our sourceness, our what we call creator access, so that we can actually see more clearly our creations, basically our histories that we've had, lives and so forth, but not that it's going to come right into our face, but we get to see how we were involved, and it actually helps us to be empowered and feeling less victim, because a lot of people still hold a lot of energy about being a victim because things happen to them. So now they'll get that burst that we're going to get is allowing us to be able to see that we were never a victim. Now, of course, the ego is going to probably try to do whatever it normally does. It's like, no, we had no say in it. But in fact, it would be dwarfed to the point where we could see where we had a hand in that creation. Some people call it responsibility or whatever it is, but it's really a hand in it, in that creation, co-creation. And later on, about the 15th, we will also activate a little bit more of knowing, an understanding, a deeper knowing of the perfection of what was being created and what we've put our attention on and what we've played with. So what that does is actually allows us to relax more in our current reality. And then with that, with the reminder of our co-creation and so forth, it actually gives us the opportunity, and this is why the renewal comes into it, because now we can really spend more time or more focus, energetic focus, conscious focus, and awareness in renewing ourselves from that old state, but really creating something new. And this is very instrumental for all the changes that are coming into the on the planet at this point in time. There's a few other things that got just recently is going to become a focus in June going into July. And that is a lot of the agendas and narratives and so forth that have been projected. And we'll have some of those glimpses in June, but going more in July and August. We'll be able to see more of whatever's been playing out and really just not only see it, people call it disclosure, whatever it is, but a deeper understanding of how it served, but also to be able to take an active role in shifting it. So instead of us going into blame and all of that, because the only thing that blames is our ego, right? And the ego is designed to do that because that's a distraction method.
Yes. Yeah, and you can see a lot of that playing out over the last few weeks. You can see people getting pretty vocal about it, but to me, it looks like that that's almost like a necessary part of it. It's swing a little bit over to that end of it and then kind of come back and balance it out a little bit. One of the things I noticed too, that's why I was mentioning about creativity and manifestation. It sounds a little bit like it's connected to what you're talking about, the whole creation part of it that comes in, like say around the 10th. One of the things I've been getting was, as I'm watching things align in my own circle, which is Soulogy, in terms of, my work, that I've been told, you've been getting this for a long time. You understand how the energy works. You're not getting wowed by some of the revelations and epiphanies. But people are going to be, and this isn't a bad thing. It's just like, oh my God, it's here. It's finally actually happening. All my work is coming together. The universe is supporting me. Something's obviously very different. It's moving very fast. And I can see what I'm being told is to hold space, because it's going to be needed, because there's going to be some excitability going on because of what's actually happening, and understanding it wouldn't last very long. Obviously it'll balance out, but I think that's, to me, that's pretty good intel for me, because I can see with what you're saying that this is, there's good stress and there's bad stress. I'm not saying it's stress, but it's like good news, and it's a bit overwhelming. And I'm observing this in people, and it's actually very cool. It's actually very exciting, because it's a consequence of the things that you've been talking about. The inverted matrix projection being shut down, the 2020 energy being turned on, and all the things that have occurred up to this point, and now as we get into June. So I think it's going to be a heck of a summer. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, yeah, the renewal part is totally creation, recreating not only yourself, your reality, your world, because we're all tied into all of that, right? So it's a completely recreation. So it's not even so much a manifestation, because we've stepped out of the manifestation. And the reason we use creation versus manifestation is creating what has already been, or bringing into reality what already has been created by others, or collectively, or individually, and so forth. But when we're tapping into creation, now you're taking pure source consciousness and source essence, and with your experience, and now you're basically shaping something that hasn't been. So you're getting into creation, and that's what the renewal aspect, or the theme. That's why they're all lined, and you got the same message, just different words. But the thing is, now it's about creating completely new.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
doing it in that way.
Yeah, I totally resonate with that. That's actually, I think I actually spoke those words in the last couple of days, probably when I was talking to Morgan. But yeah, that's what it is. It's like the templates are all in place. The templates being, like, say, the Akashic we came in with, have all been anchored enough, and it's stabilized enough. And now the remix starts. So whatever template we're representing, or set of templates we're representing, we now have a handle on it. We got it, and now we get to add our spin to it. And I think that, to me, that's the whole point. This is why we sign up, is so we can come for this period. Obviously, the rest of it, like you said earlier, you see how you were built and how you evolved. It's not about being a victim. You actually start to see the beauty and the perfection of it. But this is, to me, this is where we're stepping into new ground. This is a new phase of the universal experiencing itself through the fractals of it, that it hasn't tread on before. So again, this is great news. Fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, too, even with the recognition of your creation and so forth, it actually dissolves a lot of the disempowered part of it, where we felt that in some way we had no hand in any of the creation. And it's the empowerment part comes in, and this is why the empowerment was one of the themes that prepared us, and then the embracing, because the embracing was to bring all of us, because it's all of ourselves, and then also looking and embracing everything that already exists. Because if you don't do that, and you say, well, I'm just going to work on just one area, and I just want to connect with my higher self, your higher self is going to keep saying, and I'm saying this for everybody, our higher self is going to say, this is a complete package here. You have to involve your body. You have to involve your human entity. You have to involve your mind. You have to involve the sourceness. But then you have to involve all the other aspects of yourselves that are in your immediate area, and then your extended area, which meaning your planet and so forth. So, and then also in that part is to see the perfection of how everything is. So it's like you showing up on a job site, for example. I'm just going to use this as an example. You show up at the job site and you go, okay, where do I start? No, you're going to walk around and say, okay, what materials do I have? What tools do I have? What's the condition of the project? Where do we need to go with this, and so forth? And great, now you have a familiarity. Now you can start looking and say, okay, this is where I'm going to start. and this is where I'm going to work on, and this is where I'm going to put my focus on, and so forth. And that's the thing. So that embracement was all about that. Now it's the renewal. So you're basically now renewing your design, you're renewing your life path, basically, and getting the glimpse of that larger vastness of yourself actually contributes to seeing a bigger picture of the beautiful, more of a macro of the micro. You're really expanding that part of it and really bringing that into the equation, because there's tremendous amount of agreement that we've made for this whole year alone, because this is like a setting of a stage of progressive changes. And going into the fall, I mean, like you said, it's going to be a pretty powerful summer, or the next several months for sure. And then there's other stages coming into the fall that is actually going to prepare us before even going into the beginning of January, which is another phase in itself, and we won't cover that right now.
That's the new June. January is the new June.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to give you...
I mean, there's a lot of stuff. There's stuff coming up in September, October, and whatever else. But again, right now, we play with what we have at this moment. And so each of these stages has prepared us to really make some powerful changes. And then one thing that you mentioned there, and it's really powerful, is the sense of, the wow factor and the overwhelm factor. We may not feel it, especially the ones that have been, waiting for these changes, have already had a lot of experiences behind it. The knowing has been there for a while, even though it wasn't tangible yet. So now you're seeing all of these changes, and it's like, it's not exciting, but it is for a lot of other people, and it could be overwhelming for other people. So in a sense, you're holding space for them. So even when you're like what you're doing right now with Soulology, is you're providing constant, not only stimulation, reminders coming from different inputs and different people sharing and so forth, that it becomes, it's not like what happens is we can get shocked very easily, especially if you've never been exposed to any of this. And then all of a sudden those veils start to remove and you start to see things and it's go, oh my God, what's happening in the world? I see the chaos, I see the polarity, and especially the separation stuff that we've been feeling the last while, where it's been accentuated, and which we talked about last time. But it can become very easily overwhelming and react. So by holding a space and having various inputs coming in and various people sharing their experiences and so forth, it creates a certain level of comfort. So the transition for each person becomes a little easier. And that was the thing. So even the series that I'm doing right now, it was very instrumental to, bring some clarity, to remind people, to trigger their own knowing that there's a bigger thing than just the game that's existing. Because a lot of us, most people, are so lost in the game, so deep in the game. I shouldn't even say lost, but so deep in the game that as soon as that game starts to get destabilized, which is happening all over, especially what we went through the last few months, and with the potential that, more of it will come in that, it can seem like the world is ending. It could seem like, what the hell's going on here? Now we got this martial law, whatever it is, or, whatever a lot of people talk about, but, there's all this fear. But when we're starting to see that there is others that have already made some paths, opened the path and have had some experience and so forth, it's like, oh, okay, there is a world that's already being shaped, or other people are talking about that, resonates for them and really supports them through it. So people don't go into what we call shutdown or go into panic mode. And if they do, it's just temporarily, because it just moves them through it. So, the work that you're doing and many others are doing, including myself and whatever, we've agreed to support in that way. And, there's been a lot of prep work that we've gone through, not only our own stuff, whatever it is, but also, we've been exposed to a lot of things, even in our altered state or sleep state or whatever it is, to kind of say, okay, like you were shown, back in 2012, this is going to come into place. And this is you're going to reach globally and reach a lot of people and so forth. And what that is about, it's not about just reaching people. It's about allowing people from all over the world to be able to tap into this source, this energy, this knowing, this sharing, and so forth, that actually triggers, reminds, activates, and takes people out of that kind of what's going on. Because if we didn't have what you're providing and others are providing, imagine this just for a second. Imagine all of a sudden, all we saw was this COVID-19 thing with the lockdown, with all of this other stuff going on and anything and everything else. And all we had was what we call the mainstream media and so forth.
Yeah.
How would we feel? How would people feel? I mean, they'd be shutting down, be in panic and go in, all of a sudden, it's just like too much.
Like 9/11.
Yeah.
If you look at the reaction of, now it was a wake up. It was definitely had a seed of awakening in it, but it probably took 10 years, puts us at 2011, 2012. But yeah, if you look at the way the world responded to 9/11 versus the way it's responded these last few months, it's a totally different game.
Yeah. And this one has been even more powerful in the sense because a lot of countries, a lot of people have been involved in the sense, because it's not just, shutting down air travel and this whole thing about terrorists or whatever else that was being played out at that time. Now the terrorist is this, virus, this protein genetic code that was out there that's going to kill people and whatever else, And then I don't watch news or anything like that, but just the stuff that feeds onto Facebook and whatever else, it's like every other video, if not even more, every 2 or 3, is about all of that stuff. If nothing else was there for anybody that didn't have that, solid knowing and so forth within themselves, they would basically figure it's done. We're never going to see the light of day anymore, and we're now going into, slavery or whatever else. And this is why it's been so instrumental to get people ready to basically go into the empowered state, seeing themselves more than this human experience, and how they actually have access to be able to change things. Because a lot of times we feel that there's a creator out there, there's some deity, or there's some other group that's in charge, or even what we can call a governmental, another thing that are actually going to shape our lives, and we have no say in the matter, which most people have experienced. All of us at one point or another experienced that to a certain degree to get a deeper understanding of it. But that's all of this that's preparing us to see that, no, that's just one little compartment that we focused before, but there's much more to this. And the thing that comes up very powerfully is that the deeper you get realizing, because I can ask you, Todd, the more you understand and know, and what you've seen, what we are experiencing in the world right now as humanity, how difficult would it be to make a really radical shift and go from survival to flourishing to a point where we are not experiencing these polarities. We're not limited to all of this stuff in the systems and control structures and so forth. How from your sense, this is your personal sense, how easy would it be to change?
You'd have to pop everybody a ecstasy pill or a mushroom, or everybody takes some ayahuasca and comes out of their house at the same time. I mean, it would be too much for our system, which means as we all compose the entire realm, it'd be too much. It's no different than a download coming in. You only get so much, you can only handle so much, and then you've got to assimilate it. So I think that's how this makes a lot of sense, because we are getting it in doses. I'm impressed. I really am impressed with the entire population, because even given the old loops like mainstream media and all the different institutions and systems, people are, I can see it. People are putting their foot down, going, you know what? I've had enough of this. and that's kind of like the, when you start a fire and it starts to flame a little bit, you can see it. Yeah, that's a good point. I wanted to ask you about something else too.
Yeah, one
That's
other thing before
Yeah,
we
yeah,
do
yeah.
that. Hold on to that. Don't lose it.
No, I got it, because they're
Okay.
right here. They're right here with me. That's why I got to tell you about it.
Okay. Okay. So in regards to the changes can happen very easily. Once you
Mm.
see it, it's like there's no real problem. And transitioning from one experience to another, like you said, okay, if you hand out mushrooms, whatever, to kind of stimulate all of that. But the only resistance is the programming we have within ourselves and the ego's insistence of holding the old. Because
Yeah,
if you turn that off, even for 30 days,
yeah,
you would see how easily it can move. Because with a deeper understanding, which you have and many others have seen, things can change rather quickly once the resistance drops
yes,
and our old, oh my God, change, letting go, whatever it is. I've seen it with people that I've communicated with, even with this lockdown thing. And interesting enough, they were so fearful about not going to work, not doing, what they normally would do. Yeah, besides the fun part of going out to stores and you have limits, you can't go to different stores or you have to wear masks or whatever the stories may be, and waiting in line before you can walk in. But, all of a sudden now it's starting to reopen, even here in Canada, not fully, but, in stages and so forth. And you know what I'm hearing from certain people?
mm,
It's like, oh, I don't want it to open up. So I like it to go through the whole summer because I'm not looking forward to going back to work. I'm not looking forward to going back to my old routine because now that I had a breather, this was better than a vacation because
mm,
now I noticed I can do different things, right?
yeah, yeah,
So that deeper realization that, do I need to hold on to that old status quo way of life is being challenged in all of us too.
yeah,
So this has really, really been beneficial in many ways. Yeah, of course, there are people that are, not having an income and so forth. And I know there's some government programs and things, but again, but at the same time, even the ones that are struggling would rather have a different relief rather than going back to the treadmill, going back to the
yeah,
old way of life. But they got a taste of it that, there are other possibilities. There are other
yeah,
ways we can do things. Maybe we don't need all the things that we need, and stuff like that. So there's an adjustment around that. But anyways,
yeah.
I wanted to throw that in there because that's,
No, I get
you know,
that. Yeah, no, you're right about that. And I kind of misunderstood the question, but I get what you're saying. Absolutely. I mean, and all you got to do is just look around, and I'm really talking about the same thing when I say I'm really impressed by the way the world's reacted, and I guess it's indicative of the collective energy that's coming down, because everybody's affected by it. So last night I went to the beach. I thought it was 2 nights ago. I went 2 nights ago as well, but I just remembered last night, obviously, for a reason. I started getting chills, and I'm, getting lit up. I'm looking at you. Your face is changing, and so it came back to me right now. When I went to the beach, I had I had one of those moments we can have where you are oneness, and you're conscious, and you're not high or anything. You're just there, and so that was happening. And then there were some other things that went on, which I don't really want to get into, but I mean, like, for example, as I was having this dialogue and as these things were coming in way out in the ocean, like way out, these lightning was emphasizing uh you know what was being said, which was kind of cool. But then there was a small collection of aspects. I remember there was a lion humanoid, like a Lyrian. There was a blue being, and there was two or three other ones. But the main ones were these three. Um, I would call them light beings. They were white. They weren't. Uh, they weren't. To my knowledge, they weren't really in a humanoid form. They were more like pillars of light, and there was three of them. And so as you're talking to me, they they've reappeared. Now the hair on my back is standing up, and I'm at the point of tears. And but anyway, as I tap into this, it's just basically a message of continuity, cohesiveness, and that you guys and gals, everybody here, and everybody we know is doing a hell of a job. And there's a lot of, uh, I guess I would call it like pre-celebration, that we have we have done enough in the energetic field, that's why it's a pre-celebration, because it's going into the physical experience, which obviously is telling behind it a little bit. But so that was a pretty powerful message. I hope I got it out properly. But these three beings actually had come in one other time, but I know it was in the past few days, which I did not remember, and basically also saying that they're going to be coming back. So that'll be interesting. So anyway, I've done my
Oh,
job.
that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And it's true. I mean, we've made a tremendous amount of progress when it comes to, in a short period of time of when things really increased. And the fact that we're able to access what we can access and what we're going to do, that's why you're talking about the pre-celebration, is that we even superseded some of our brother sister souls that was observing us and seeing that, wow, this is going to be a bit of a task because of the state of the collective and the state of people, what they were going through. But we've made tremendous amount of progress, and we've turned a lot of things that would have turned out to be very polarized and negative and shut us down. Actually, we got to use as more of a progressive movement forward, and really to bring more of ourselves into it. So yeah, and then I can fully relate with those beings, because as you were talking about it, it reminds me from the connections I've had with them too. And somewhat similar message was coming through, that was very pleased with what we've been able to accomplish, not only in a short period of time since we've really put our roller skates on, sort of thing. That they're actually excited to be more involved at this point. And sometimes in other interactions I've had, not that they ever said that, but sometimes I felt that they felt that, oh, this is going to be one hell of a journey, and maybe we'll have to see how it all can play out, where we may have to take some bolder steps forward. But in fact, it wasn't necessary, because many of us have come here on the planet are already wired and ready to take a hold of the different roles and so forth throughout the world. I mean, there's many of us, right, that are doing it. And so thank you for sharing that, because it kind of, as you were talking about it, I started having memories.
Yeah, well, you definitely had something. You definitely had something to do with it. I can't pick up on it all. One of the other things they gave me last night. I've been saying, when I woke up, I am soul was the thing that I got first. Like, I am soul, I am soul, I am soul. Everything was I am soul, and how things take on more expansive meanings. Last night, when I was there, I heard, I am soul. Not the words like from the human perspective. It was just said, I am soul. This is what I am soul is. I am soul is what you guys create. Like, it is exactly what you're talking about with what's coming in next month. It was shown to me that I am soul is not like stationary. It's not a noun. It's actually what we create. That is, I am soul, just another word for, the creation seed or something to that effect. But that's what they were telling me. Because I was having a conversation with them, and I said, look, I recognize you guys. Sometimes you talk to me, sometimes you talk to me, and you know, and you all have a little bit of direction, a little guidance. And I said, which one? Which team am I playing for, basically? You know, I know I'm playing for all of you, but like, how does this work? And they explained to me that they are, in other words, they don't have agendas in a bad way, but they have certain strains of you know, patterns or processes or things that they specialize in. That might be better. So they come and they see a soul, could be any soul. They see a soul that's illuminating or expanding or capable to contain and communicate. And so they explain to me, it's no different than different energies that you will come across in your physical experience that from their heart would have, you know, certain things to that they might be pushing or they have an affinity for, whatever the case is. And so they said that, and then when I said to them, like, how does this work, you know, can you guys just like form one voice? Or, and that's when they said, I am soul is what you create. So to me, that fits with what you said at the beginning of the show in the difference between manifestation and creation. I think one last point, I remember talking to Morgan 10 days ago, and she said this before. I don't really get this language like she does. It's just she's from a different end of the universe or something. I don't know. But she said it starts with the creation of the plasma. And then the geometry is formed from the plasma, and then so on. And that's kind of what I feel is like what you said and what I heard last night, especially what you said about the distinction between creation and manifestation, because this is like I said earlier, this to me why we came. This moment, this point is why we came.
Yeah, exactly. Excellent. Exactly.
Hmm.
And all the prepping that we've gone through for many of us at this point in time, and we have seen what can be manifested and what can be recycled in a way. I call manifestation sometimes. I remember years ago saying that it's kind of a recycling because you're basically you know, when people, well, I want to manifest this, and this. And most of the manifestation was, you know, based on what other people were experiencing, you know, whatever else that was going on, something that has been experienced or whatever it is. But then they wanted their version of it, you know, and I'm going, oh, so you're talking about recycling then, you know, you want to recycle with the same materials, with the same energy and whatever else. You just want to create a different, slightly different form to match your requirements or what you think you require. But, you know, it's when you're really getting into your soul, essence, power, sourceness, you step away from recycling and so forth. Now you create everything new from the field of the fabric of the energies of the most current. So it's like you're now tapping into the moment of sourceness and then creating everything that hasn't even been created yet. With that, you're using expanded imagination, expanded creativity in what you want to experience. But it encompasses the whole. It's not so much isolated. You have your isolated version, but you also have the whole in all of that. So it's not about, okay, let's manifest what existed or what was thought of before or what we believed was a certain thing. Now it's like, how do we feel right now, currently, with the very essence of not only ourselves, the planet, the solar system, the galaxy, the universe that we're all involved in, would be the newest way of designing, reshaping this human experience and the playground that we are playing in. So we're tapping into that versus, you know, the old method, because we've taken those barriers down, because before it was very difficult, even though we were always creating, but the percentage of creation was very small.
Yes.
Most of it was just manifestation, and we were programmed that way, conditioned that way, not from a soul perspective, but through the environment. Is just that we kept ourselves in a loop maybe a little bit advancement here and there, plugging in certain things. But we actually were getting older and older in the sense of falling behind with where the solar system, the galaxy, and the universe was going to. And that's why we were offline for the longest time, or what we call quarantine, because what we were manifesting and recycling over and over again, which was a very polarity and the very, what we call destructive energies, that, again, that was all recycled for the 10,000 years. That's all we did. We made very little progress. We just plugged in some technologies only to keep recycling the same thing. But now we're outside of that. We broke out of that. Now it's really putting the focus on creation. Of course, the ego is going to say, no, 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 no. We got to create from what we already know, what we've already experienced. But from a soul perspective, and that's why we go back to the soul, like you were saying, is the soul saying, no, 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 no. We're not going to use the old. We're going to create completely brand new. We're going to go right into the very core essence of who we are, and now design everything brand new, and design it so that it matches us, and we bring ourselves more in alignment with what, not only our solar system, the galaxy, universe are part of. And again, as souls, we've come from many different dimensional consciousness, different physical forms, different expressions and experiences where, the playgrounds were different. Now, of course, some of us have been here on this playground before too, but a lot of times, we just kept venturing into some other experiences and so forth. And now we're like excited to bring it here in this playground. And that's what's happening right now. It's like, bring it into the playground. What we've learned. It's like, the example I can give you. It's like somebody that travels the world. And when they travel the world, they taste different foods, they experience different cultures, they experience different environment, they experience different architecture and whatever, people are experiencing and so forth. And then when they do come back to where they want to call home for a little while, they've been enriched. And now I say, well, how could I plug some of these some of these experiences that I had into my current reality, where I call home at the time being. And that's just to give you an example, but the soul is doing it from a multi-dimensional state, and through parallels and whatever else, and saying, okay, I want to bring all of this in. And that's why a lot of the collapsing of the timelines occurred, because in essence, now it's like, we don't have to have all these partitions. Now let's bring it all into one, put everything in one complete open timeline, which you can plug in and remove anything you want at that point, because that's how it's done elsewhere. Why would we want to have limits anymore? So that's what we're bringing in at this time.
Yeah, that feels right too. Especially, we've had a lot of conversations around, building what we call in the 3D a business or organization or whatever. But if I think about like what you're saying, I can see that, because it's like, and we've talked about it, you can't take, so to speak, you can't take any of the 3D structure with you. This is all a new creation. And if I think about some of the disclosure topics, such as free energy, such as secret space, and breakaway civilizations and this and that, and there's something about the truth of what you're talking about, that there's something inside of me that knows that that stuff doesn't even bring light a can, what do they say? Can't even hold a candle to what you're actually communicating to us energetically. My soul knows what you're talking about, and you're reminding me. So the de-emphasis is going to occur organically and naturally of all these things playing out. I'm not saying they're not going to be there, but the disclosure of ourselves is far beyond any story, any narrative out there. And I'm just getting lit up. I wanted to ask you, because of these aspects, they won't leave me alone. I know that we're all one. We all know that. So I guess my question is like this. These aspects are more than familiar to me. Now, the three white beans, that's something I'm not going to put them in that category yet. Okay. My suspicion is they're probably the same, but at some other kind of level. But the other ones that I was talking about seem more than familiar to me. They seem like me. All right. So I guess my question is the soul, is uh the soul of that Lyrian, the soul of the blue being, as Todd is a blue being, Todd is a Lyrian, is the soul kind of like the nucleus and then the tendrils, of each incarnation? Or because I feel like what's happening is they're coming, and it's not so much what they tell me, it's more of my memory of me, basically. And with those memories, each one of them having certain attributes that are now come available to me, even though the human might not understand everything that's being given, right? But somehow I know that's what's happening. Does any of that make any sense? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. That's a good point that you brought up. We can go down this path then, and we'll look at it. In the sense of, a lot of these beings that do show up, we have, because when those familiarities show up for you, that's really the memory of the soul having interactions with them, or even embodying similar physicalities, taking on similar roles in previous lives, but also the agreements that may have been established prior to taking on this body and coming on planet Earth and saying, okay, listen, we're going to maintain this connection. And there's cases where they are actually part of the soul family. They're from the first cluster that's connected. So you're connected to an oversoul. The oversouls are connected to all of those other aspects of yourself. And everything is an aspect of yourself, but there are different layers of aspects of yourself. The closer aspects are the ones that are most linked to your oversoul. You have the closest and more powerful connection with that is easier to communicate back and forth, and they will present. And so depending on, where you've been from a soul perspective, because when it comes to the body and comes to the human entity, it just basically has the human experience part. But the soul itself has, may have been somewhere and says, okay, I'm going to take on that task to go down to planet Earth, take a human body, and I'm going to play this particular role. And they'll say, okay, listen, we'll stay connected at certain stages when, you've reached a certain level of experience and are ready to communicate at that higher level. Then we'll be more hands-on, more like, okay, we're going to connect more often and share, remind you, whatever it is. A lot of times when these memories come in is because you not only are you accessing the agreement, but also accessing yourself being one of them in that physical form, in that energy that you still have within you, except that you're expressing it differently because you're expressing it in human form, and you may be limiting certain parts of it so that you can have to more fully experience the human form, right? In this time space, if you want to call it that, experience. So that's kind of what you're looking at in that. Now, there are also access points that you will have, and I'm sure you've had it, where when we were putting a lot of focus on alternate versions of yourself in alternate planets and so forth, as it was projecting itself and taking in different what you call simulations and so forth, that you'll get a glimpse of that. But when you're talking about beings of that nature, those are from other dimensional realities that you've maintained certain connections. Like soul families, when you're talking soul families and you're talking about the oversoul, it does not mean that they're all taking human experience. Not at all. They are just, you have a certain connection through the signature and so forth, but they're on different planets, on different, some may not hold the planet, may not be in form at that point in time, but has been in form and so forth. But each one of them is an aspect of you that is communicating with you that you can utilize while you're here. And you're doing the same for them too, because you're also providing feedback for them on how, because some of them have never been in a human form and find it very interesting to be able to have emotions, to have, the limitations, and how does it feel to go through massive polarity and amnesia in a sense because of not understanding and seeing things for a period of time and just seeing yourself as a human form. So those are all the different facets.
Yeah, I
And
got
that's
that.
just,
I got that. And there was two things. One, I know this more is coming back. One, nobody told me this, but I got the feeling that, so we have this network, this cosmic network, the web, the cosmic web,
yep.
and all these different layers. And one of the feeling I got was that, like, if we took one step into that network, into the multidimensionality of that network, it's a very strong galactic presence, like almost like the galactic, you know, the galactic soul family and us kind of are one step away from here. Like they're almost like the closest contact. And then the other thing they showed me, and I'm not saying that's gospel, I'm just saying that's what I kind of felt. And I felt it before, but it was really powerful last night. And then the other thing, which actually happened to me when I got back, I was basically told to, to travel. So I did. And I said, where are we going? And it was kind of like I was going to another planet in another dimension or another universe, to kind of touch base, to kind of put my feet on the ground, both of the planetary object, but also of whatever aspect familiar to me there. Right. So it was just like a visit. And as it was happening, I understood that this is going to be happening. Like I can go and just kind of touch base and go and touch base and I'm, assuming that's kind of going to deliver the same type of situation that it did last night, which was, information is being, interfacing and getting information, getting memory, whatever the case is. But yeah, very galactic to me. Other than the three light beams, those were somewhere like way up there. Yeah.
Well, the galactic part and being exposed to the galactic really kind of plays a very powerful role in accessing higher aspects of ourselves and seeing that, one of the things I find with the theme, and I as you were talking about it, it became very apparent that any of these connections are saying, listen, as much as you're the boots on the ground sort of thing,
Mm-hmm.
you've got a team.
Yeah.
We're all not only rooting for you, but we're supporting you and we're sharing and communicating back and forth. So you're not alone to do this, because a lot of times we can feel alone, even with a lot of people around us, because there's only so much you can access with that. But when you're bringing the galactic perspective of it, it also feels very powerful within yourself, because it's like, I'm making and I don't want to say this so that the ego will get into it, but it's more like I'm really active here and making a huge impact, and we can see more of the potential that we can bring into it. And it's really, it feels powerful within yourself and powerful in your capacity to be able to really bring that down to earth sort of thing in experiencing it, and also facilitating people to kind of move forward in a big way in that regards. So to me, I have to say that it's been, I don't want to call it a saving grace, but it's been very helpful through all these years that I've had connections with my galactic brother, sister souls, that I've had, opportunities for their visits, opportunities to even go on their ships, and also to visit their planets time to time. Because what we're happening now, there's a lot more reflection of a lot of movements like yourselves and others that are out there. But for many, many years, there was none. And that was my only connection that I had, in a sense. You're walking along with everybody, but everybody's nowhere anywhere in any sense of reflecting anything that you already knew, felt, and were experiencing. Especially when, you know, many of us carry two operating systems. You carry the operating system that's truly advanced in your what you can call organic matrix, but also what we've brought in from our own experiences from different dimensional aspects. And then you have the human one that is the current whatever is playing out here. And it's so you would see things and it's like, yeah, this lights up. And then the other stuff, you see this one lighting up and it's like, oh, this feels heavy. This one feels light, right? And to see the two coming together to you, it's like, yeah, that's easy. Just you can change anything really so easily. But at the same time, because of the heavy programming and everything else and the heaviness of that human part, it seems, you know, daunting in a way, in a very powerful way. It's like, oh, this is going to be forever. So it's really powerful with those types of connections like you're having now and probably been having for some time, maybe not the remembrance of it to the degree that you do now, kept us going because I'm sure, and there's even myself, I felt like, oh, this is too far gone. This is like going to take forever. Like, get me out of here. You know, there's no way. I'm not sticking this out. You know, I have a 120-year contract and I have to be here to 2077. It's like, I don't think so. You know, I don't feel that way now, but I'm just saying years ago, there was many occasions I was like, come on, guys, really? Come on. It's not moving that far at all. You know, we had the first change in 87 and, you know, it's been moving, but really super slow. Then the 2012 was like, okay, we got phase 2 here and but still there was dragging. Every time they kept delaying it, it's like, oh, really? Come on, really? You know, so now, I mean, of course, it's different. It feels very different now, but, and there's an excitement about it too. But, you know, if it wasn't for the interactions and you know, other visitations and leaving the planet here and there, I don't know how well I would have fared after this point.
Yeah, and yeah, that's a really good point, and I think that's kept a lot of us going. You know, these what we would call divine episodes or visitations. Of course, now it's becoming, you know, more of a conversational topic, an accepted topic, along with everything else, because I get the messages from people every single day, you know, and what you said earlier about these spaces where we create these community portals or vortexes or whatever you want to call it, platform, whatever. The exchange of these experiences is helping people a lot. From what I'm getting. I mean, I get a lot of messages every day from people. I really do. I probably get at least 10 and of this type, which are, you know, gratitude. But what I'm getting at is when they actually say, you know, in so many words, I'm not crazy. If it wasn't for this, I would still be like that. You know, especially with the variation of the energies that have been part of this and been enhanced at each step of the way. So I want to make sure there's a lot of people stepped in the door and come in and out. So I just want to kind of go back over what we talked about at the top, because it is important. We've still got 3 or 4 days in May. You said that something's going to kick in tonight through tomorrow, and then the 3rd of June, and then I think you said around the
6th to the 10th.
6th to the 10th, yeah, 6th to the 10th.
Yes.
And we're talking about what did you call it? Was what was the next one? Embracement, and then June is
renewal.
Yeah, so a renewal. We're dealing with new creation. We're by the soul's guidance, creating from the core essence.
Correct.
The new. Okay, so
we're
kind of go through that.
Yeah, we're starting tomorrow or later tonight into the morning, throughout the morning, and that'll last about 2-3 days. Is accessing more of ourselves. A lot of the barriers will become a little bit more transparent, so we could actually expand ourselves in what we call the creation of planet Earth and the creation of humanity, we get to see more of the creation fabrics and our involvement in it. So you get to access more of that self outside of your limited parameters, because we've all created limited parameters about how we've been experiencing ourselves, and creating as this is me. So the this is me is actually going to be seen more expanded. So you're going to see more of me. And when I say me, I mean talking about everybody themselves, more of themselves as the me, as a larger version of me, which encompasses more of the creation and also more potentiality, and also more of its creation, a capacity of creation. So that's that part of it. To facilitate us further, on the 3rd of June, so this is going to go to the end of the month, right into the 1st. Then the 3rd, we're looking at our organic matrix is getting an update. So it's new software being plugged in, which also will support us through a lot of the changes. So it will actually facilitate in destabilizing it in a more natural, or what do you call it? That's more natural. Oh, I had the word in my mind, but a more transitional, that's not the word, but transitional change into, from what we've been putting a lot of focus on the inverted matrix, to be able to use it into more of our organic matrix. So that's coming into play. The 6th to the 9th is more of activation of our involvement, or remembering, and not only remembering, actually seeing our involvement in the co-creation part and stimulating more of that co-creation. And that's going to go till about the 9th, 10th of June, that part of us. So we basically are able to access more of our involvement of how we put things into our realities and our co-realities. And going into the 14th, 15th of June, then we're actually going to be utilizing more of that, because there's that integration time after the 10th to about the 14th, 15th. And then we're going to go into that, and then that will carry on where we start to use more of that. You will feel, how can I say, you will sense and feel more of the restrictions that they're there, but you will be able to dissolve a lot of it a lot easier. So it's not going to be so effortful. It may present, and your ego might react, or some of your programming within the memories in the body may react, but it will dissipate very quickly, and it will just bring certain what looks like intensities or feel like intensities, but it will break down a lot quicker, in the sense it will just dissolve. It's not even so much an effort, so forth. Now, the only resistance that we'll have is when the ego will say, no, we can't go there, or something of that nature. And we may feel that. Yeah. We may feel that in a certain way, but at the same time, it will not have the same heaviness and grip on us as it had before. So, and then there's a lot of transformation that'll happen in July and August, which going into those months before the September-October wave comes in, and that is really another staging that is in progress, or process, I guess you want to call it.
So as these things happen, and I get what you're saying, that the ego is going to come in and do its thing, saying no, but it's not going to be like a hard no. It's going to be more of like, oh, I won't say like a soft no. Like, we could still be pulled in, but you're saying it's going to be easier to neutralize it.
Yeah, and the thing is, to be observant is very powerful. Like observing what comes up, and what comes up is really what the ego is throwing into the mix. We may have programs. All of us do, to some degree, programs, perceptions, belief systems, and so forth. They don't have as much impact as we may think it does.
Yeah.
In the sense, especially in the realm that we're walking into. So we may have programmed patterns, and that's okay. We fall into those patterns, and then we start noticing the patterns doesn't resonate. So you start to make shifts in that. the thing that is the biggest obstacle, what seems like the biggest obstacle is for us, is that if we have a belief that maybe we weren't good enough, okay, just use that as an example, and then many of us do, one way or another. And sometimes we say, "Oh no, I don't have that." Well, it has a lot of many disguises. Let's put it that way. That I can't do this. It's still connected with that, or the fact that I'm not privy to this, or whatever it is, or it comes up in all different forms. However, in that coming in, as it presents itself, those programs itself really doesn't have as much impact until the ego grabs it and then says, okay, I'm going to create a whole bunch of stories around that, and I'm going to use a lot of reference points around the world. For example, it will say, okay, we really can't change our reality, right? You may have a belief that there's a limit because up to this point in time, you have a history of making very incremental changes and a lot of times getting stuck. The ego goes, oh, look at this. Look at what's presented here. Look at what the media is saying. Look at what examples of other people are doing and so forth. And it's going to use all of those things to kind of create a story and build a climax around that. The key here, going into observer state, you're stepping back and you're going to watch it as a movie now. You're going to see what's being presented as a movie by stepping back and observing it. Now, the part that is observing is your conscious mind, your conscious aspect of yourself that uses resources that's coming from your own human innate, or what we call physical innate consciousness, your human entity consciousness and your soul consciousness, creating that one cluster, which is basically your conscious, stepping back and now watching what the ego is presenting itself and watching it as a movie. You can easily or more easily say, very interesting. Thank you for sharing all of that stuff. And you can watch it and then saying, it does not resonate and I choose not to give power to it. And you can say it. And if you say it verbally, it's a little bit more powerful because you're using your voice as a frequency generator. You're generating a frequency of sources. So when you're saying no, without the polarization, saying, no, I'm not going to give power to that. I am choosing. The power, the word I am choosing is very powerful. I choose this as my new reality. I choose this as the direction I go. And I choose this in an empowered state. And this is where empowerment comes in. And embracing, because the embracing makes the empowerment even more powerful. And this is why all these stages have come into it before. Say, because you're now in an empowered and choosing a state of embracing, which is embracing all aspects of yourself. And now you're saying, there's all of me making this choice to focus here, to redirect here, to use my creative abilities, my creator essence, because you are creator essence, to reshape my reality. Versus the reality that the ego is going to present. Because the ego wants to present the old version, wants to present not only the old version of you, of what you've adopted as an idea of you. See, as all other versions of you, being your human body, your human entity, and your soul, has never really experienced all of that, but has never categorized, labeled itself as you. So you've been living a life of a projection, what we call a projection, facade shaped you that has only the ego has labeled and has defined you as this or that or whatever it is, good, bad, right, wrong, failed, non-failed, but you're the father of this nature. You're the mother of this nature. You are the player of this nature. You are this history and all of the labels that we've attached to this history and definitions of this history. It's only the ego has created that facade. Now, what you're doing is saying, yes, those are experiences, roles that we have taken on and perceptions that we've taken on as a definition of ourselves. However, we're not any of that any longer. I am now stepping into, and I have already stepped into, and now I put my focus on to create everything from this state that I'm in now with a deeper access of all other facets of myself. So I create from that and utilizing not only the codes that are coming in, the consciousness that's coming in, the energies that are coming in, but I'm also bringing the what I came here to do into the mix and utilizing all of this as creating forward from that point. This is what all of this has been leading us to, and letting go of all of this other stuff that we have adopted. And the ego is going to just keep coming in, but it's losing its capacity, because every time we get caught into it and go into the dramatic part of it, you're fueling it, but it's still not sustaining enough unless you get really into the depth. And the key here is also observing when you're playing with other people, and I'm sure you recognize this, if they're going to go into a dramatic state by you, and this is for everybody, by stepping back as the observer, as they're doing their dance, you're not allowing your ego to engage in their ego, because then it feeds each other. Because a lot of times when you do get engaged with somebody's interactions, you may feel afterwards, oh man, that was heavy. And then you feel this, I don't want to call it dread, but you feel that heaviness. That's because the ego's gotten you involved in that older energy, that older version of you. But right now it's like, no. So when you step back as the observer and say, I choose, these words are powerful. I choose to step into my observer state as soul, as my human entity, as my conscious body. I choose to observe as the cosmic self, I observe as the universal self, as my source self. You can use any of those facets. Then you're observing it from that state. You're now accessing that more powerful state. And you could see it as the movie, and how the movie can be now reshaped. And you can also choose not to participate in the sense of saying, oh, you guys want to play there. I'm not here to change you. I'm not here to reinforce this. I allow you. I bless you. I thank you for playing that role, but you can play the role all you want. I am choosing to focus here. If you want to join me, you're welcome. If you want to join me, we can co-create. But if you're not ready for that, that's okay. And so these are very powerful tools for people to use. The moment you say verbally, because then you're bringing, you can do it unconsciously, but if you do it vocalize, you're bringing in creative power. As you know, you heard first there is the voice, or what do you call it, the sound, because sound, the energy that it carries restructures. This is why Dr. Emoto was using not only labels but even just directing energies, but the vocal, I love you. This is why it's so powerful to say, I acknowledge you, I thank you, I love you for everything. That transforms every part of it. And it also super empowers you, super enlightens you up in the sense of accessing that sourceness by just doing that. So with that is, I choose to now create new. I choose to use my creative ability. By just saying that already shifts it, accesses so much more. And your limits, those barriers that we're talking about, that now it's going to become more transparent as of tonight, tomorrow, and moving forward. You now, the moment you say, I choose to play that, not because you have a judgment of where you're at, because you have to acknowledge where you're at. You appreciate what you've created up to now. You love what you create, but now I choose to expand. Now that I'm getting a glimpse of it, I want to access. I choose to access more of the vastness of creation, this beautiful field that I have access to. I choose to. So by using those words, by seeing that part of it, it will, break down a lot of those so-called anchors and barriers and limitations that we've given a lot of power to it. And when you do that, even the ego loses its grip on you. So anyways, I wanted to share that because this is powerful for everybody.
It's like voice command. We're Siri.
Yes,
We're
yes,
Siri, and
yes, yeah.
our body's the phone. No, I get this. Yeah, and I know because that's a big part of my deal is the whole the voice, the throat chakra, and I've seen that the impact it has in not just in conversations but in other types other means of expression. So let me ask you, everybody, hang around for a second. I'm just going to ask a couple of housekeeping things here. How did your workshop go Saturday?
Well, it got postponed.
Oh, it got postponed. Okay. When
Yes,
is
it
it?
got
When is it
postponed.
coming up?
So we're now, their new focus is, I think it's the 13th, 14th, and 15th. It's a
Okay.
3-day
Okay.
part. It seems to be in development.
Okay.
So in fact, it just keeps upgrading in a way, and it's also allowing people to go through it. So a lot of the focus now, even if you're looking at the Advancing Consciousness series, has been preparing people. So the one I did yesterday was on the ego. Tomorrow's is on the next stage of ego to recognize even further. We give bits and pieces in this conversation anyways, but we're going to go and look at it so people actually see understand how it not only functions, where it came from and everything else. That was yesterday's, but tomorrow's is actually to how to recognize it within yourself, because a lot of times we don't recognize it and we think it's us, and a lot of times it's saying, oh, this is me. But to have that recognition, so because then we can the different next episodes that are coming in will prepare us even more, so that when we have it on the 13, 14, and 15, the thing is, it's interesting because my soul actually plays a very powerful role, and then it says, okay, there's some more components and we have to do some more before that. So it's been shifting the dates, and it's like, okay, we'll go with it. And I can tell because each time it's shifted, there's more components that come into it,
Yeah.
and there's
Yeah.
more things that, so okay, I can see why this is necessary. And then also these changes that we're going through this month has been it's been quite a what's the word, whirlwind? No, is that the correct word? I can't. But anyways,
Whirlwind.
whirlwind.
Yeah.
That's
That will
been quite
work.
of a whirlwind.
Yeah.
And yeah, and we have some other stuff that's coming in to the June, especially the beginning part. So it's coming in very instrumental. I say, oh, okay, I can see why 13, 14, 15, and then the second phase of it. That's pretty cool.
Well, excellent.
So
That's excellent. And so everybody understands this is a 3-day workshop in June that Franco and Kimberly are putting on. And let me just remind everybody again, he's got a series. He's in session 20. Well, you should add like 20A, 20B, because I think you're in the third one or the fourth one of 20. It's the last thing I saw.
yes, 21st
Yeah.
was yesterday's
Yeah.
episode 21, but we
Oh,
had 3
21.
parts in 20.
20.
Then
Okay.
some of them had 6 parts in it. So
Yeah.
we're quite up there.
Yeah. And we talked about this, everybody, anyone that's new to this, Advancing Consciousness series. It's on YouTube. You can find it there. You can find it on Facebook. This is all free. This is all free energy that they've been sharing without asking for anything. So let's support this 3-day workshop in June. And also, I know Kimberly's in the audience. Kimberly, if you would put up your Advancing Consciousness PayPal in the comments on my page on Facebook. And I'd also put one on YouTube, because we've had about 75 people here, give or take, on YouTube as well. But let's pay it forward to these people, because they are just killing it. They are absolutely putting it out there, and in complete faith. And it's time to pay it back. And I mean that in a non-3D way, because we all gain from it when we pay it forward. When I pay it back, pay it forward. So
Yeah, and the amount of hours that of the content, if you go through it, because a lot of them are 2 hours long,
I looked at them
some
yesterday.
2.5 hours.
I wanted to dip in. Of course, I wasn't in the perfect frame of mind, but I wanted to dip in like I usually do when we talk. I was keeping up for a while, and then it got away from me. So I would go dip in, sit with the last one. That's why I knew it was the third one of the 20. And So I only got as far as I pulled up all the YouTube page on video. I pushed videos and they all popped up, and they're all like, 1 hour 40, 2 hours 10, and they're all, I'm like, oh my God. I mean, I would have to sit here for quite a while, which I'll probably end up doing over these next few days as I get out there on my own. I've downloaded quite a few of them. But yeah, it's great work, yeoman's work. I mean, this is not heavy in a bad way, but this is a big thing. This archive that they've built, and it's available. So if it resonates, please visit the PayPal link is there under Kimberly Ross's comment. And for those of you on YouTube, you can find them at Advancing Consciousness YouTube channel.
We have a
So I
new
just,
rollout too, actually.
oh yeah,
Just so that we say, the next rollout is a podcast. We have
Hmm.
a podcast that's going to start within a week.
Wow,
That will go daily.
very
It'll be a
cool.
little shorter, of course.
Yeah. Like an
I
hour.
say 45 minutes to 60 minutes.
No,
Who knows?
there'll be an hour, I guarantee it.
Yeah. So the podcast, we're actually opening up another YouTube channel. So there will be a video podcast, but then there will be regular audio podcast that will be available on iTunes and
Okay.
all the various ones. We're in the process. I've just got some equipment which I'm working on at the moment, thanks to the contribution of some individuals, to be able to put that together. So that's also will be available, and all the content is most current possible to assist us to really shift into this. And we're doing it. It's all free. If people contribute, that's great. I think we're going to be arranging also a Patreon. So if somebody wants to be a regular sponsor of it, I don't want to create any restrictions. We have not created any restrictions. People are free to contribute. People are free to just enjoy free, because I don't want to put any restrictions on anybody to it, because the thing is, it's really putting our focus in us shifting in a big way.
Yes.
We're here to do this together, and that's the thing. And I'm looking forward to, once your platform is up, to work through your platform and everything else, and do something amazing there too. Yeah.
It'll all come together. It's all me. It's all aligning, and I love the I love the I feel it's important. I mean, not everybody agrees with me, but this faith, which is really what we're doing. I mean, it's we step through fears, and we elevate. Everything is about taking this step, and you don't really know what's going to be on the other side. But I think that this 5D commerce, this paying it forward, gifting, is representative of the new frequency, because we're not going to take the old one with us. So I give you both big props for sticking with that, because it's not easy, as trying to survive, but it's getting better. I think it's getting better for everybody, and the more we engage this energy, the bigger it's going to get. So on behalf of everybody, I just want to say thank you again. And I don't know when the next time I'll see you. I would imagine maybe around the 10th of June. I'm not going to schedule anything until Monday or Tuesday. If I get back, I may stay an extra 2-3 days. I don't know.
Well, you do what you have to do. You just follow your inner knowing. I mean, your guidance system will let you spend the time you need to spend where you need to be. And as you're driving along, you're going to meet a lot of different energies and so forth. And it's all supportive. And it's really about going in the flow. This is for everybody. We have to flow every day.
Yeah.
Each moment is brand new. Each moment is another expanded version of ourselves. And to be okay with it, and be okay to let go of the old selves. This is the thing. A lot of times we feel that one of the biggest obstacles I found with people, and all of us in one way or another, is that we seem like we invest in ourselves and we want to return in the investment, but it's not about that. It's about really just allowing ourselves, whatever we put the focus in. It's not about building ourselves. We're constantly growing, expanding. And, it's like, I worked so hard to create this facade of myself, or this version of myself. I'm not ready to let it go, And that's one of the things that's been an obstacle for people to let go of either relationships or where they live, or certain careers and something of that nature. And they eventually get so uncomfortable, they finally say, okay, I got to let it go.
Yeah.
But because we get so caught up in the idea, and this is the ego's idea, it's not our true essence of investing and building, this version of ourselves. Really, we have no version. We're always growing. That is always upgrading and changing. And the more we get on board with that, the freer and the more exciting it is, and much more freeing it feels within ourselves, because you want our souls to lighten up, like mean illuminating. It's just being fluid, being open to everything that we're going on, and then we're expressing and experiencing them from the physical perspective of things. And that's really exciting in so many ways.
It is.
You
And
light
it's
up.
nice.
You light
And
up.
and it's nice not to have that charge, because I had the charge. Obviously, we all have had the charge, but like, so again, Solgy is an example. But I reached the point. I don't know when I reached it, but it had to be, it had to be sometime this year, where it's not that I don't care. It's just that I know what one of my missions is. I mean, why would I be downloading this stuff? And but I'm not attached to it. I'm not. Wanting to control, and I realize it's got to be organic. Everything has to be, renewal.
Yeah.
Birthing from that place of that pure creation energy. So, but thanks again for coming in, and thanks for what you guys are doing. Thank you, Kimberly. And I look forward to what you guys got coming. I look forward to collaborating again and again and again and again.
Well, I thank you for having me on, and I really, really I have to be truly transparent. I really enjoy our conversation. I enjoy the freedom, the openness, and the great questions, and what you share. I mean, it's powerful because of your own experience and seeing that. So, to me, it's like you're one close brother that I never knew I had, in a sense.
I feel the same exact way. That's the truth.
Thank you again.
All right, brother.
Much blessings to you.
Yeah.
And
take care.
And carry on the beautiful, and enjoy the trip to Morgan, and please say thank you, and much love to Morgan also.
I will do. Y'all take care.